Dennis Bermudez has a podcast. He had Dana White on. They talked about Jorge Masvidal, Usman, and a headline came out on MMA Junkie airing the video and the audio of this, but the headline read, Dana White clarifies what is next for Masvidal. I gotta tell you, I watched this thing 3 times. I'm not clear on a damn thing. I'm more confused. So let's back up in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Masvidal is supposed to fight Usman, International Fight Week, July, Las Vegas. We can see where counting on something like that is going to be a little bit hard, particularly by the fact that it doesn't even look like National Fight Week is going to be a thing. Are all the shows going to be in Florida? Are we going to Fight Island? Will the Apex be open? All these different questions. But Masvidal Usman off. Now, I'm going back about 3 days here, but I'm pretty good at this stuff, and I have pretty good connections. I could never find out why Masvidal Usman was off. If you guys know, let me know. Something I'm missing here. But it didn't look like Usman was hurt. Usman's actually been putting out some training videos on social media. He looks great. I haven't read anything that he was hurt or he pulled out. Then the other part of the story that was equally as confusing, at least for me, is while that fight was canceled, without a clear explanation of why it was canceled, it was also added on the back of the statement by Dana that something big is in the works for Masvidal. So again, that led me, falsely or not, I'm just telling you how I interpret it. I interpreted that to mean that Usman must be the one who pulled out of the fight. But when I did further investigation, and Usman and I have a mutual friend named Ryan. So I even call Ryan. I go, Ryan, are you reading this stuff about Usman? And he goes, yeah. And I go, okay, they're saying Masvidal's still in, but the fight's off. Usman's the champion. Did Usman pull out of the fight? That's all I want to know. Did Usman get an injury? Did Usman pull out of the fight? He goes, man, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I did some research too. Everything I see of Usman that's Usman putting out as recently as 48 hours ago, he looks like $1 million. He's training his ass off while social distancing. I don't know if you guys have been to Kamaru's Instagram page, but it's great. Like, he's going outside in Florida. I mean, it looks great. You know, he's got a body that looks like he's carved out of stone. He's doing workouts like on the bumper of his car with dumbbells and whatnot. I mean, it's great. If you like watching people work out, I do. Usman's doing some really cool stuff all by himself. So the bottom line that I'm trying to make for you is I could not figure out why this fight is off. I get why International Fight might be in question. I get why them fighting in Vegas might be in question. I don't know why Kamaru versus Masvidal is off. And I'm actually asking you a sincere question. If you do know, smarten me up on this. So then it comes out on the second part of this that something big is in the works for Masvidal. And when Dennis Bermudez was interviewing Dana, he asked him straight up, are you talking about Conor? You're talking about Masvidal and Conor on Fight Island. And Dana got a little bit weird. Now, this is all body language. His words were very smooth. Well, you know, that would be one option. His words were very smooth, but his face was kind of telling a different message, which if you want to have something to discuss, you have to read into. I read into, and I come to the same conclusion that Dennis Bermudez came to, that if something big is out there for Masvidal, big enough to break up a world title fight, world champion versus BMF champion, belt versus belt, if it's big enough to do that, doesn't it have to be Conor? And there's no evidence there. There's no proof, but the calendar does look very appealing to that, right? This whole belief that Conor was going to sit out to fight Khabib, I've always thought was a little unlikely just looking at dates. Now, when we got this weirdness that has hit, perhaps it is best to hold Conor until September and get an arena full of people and a press tour. I mean, Conor has a very real skill, a very unique skill that he can bring to the table. Perhaps it is best to wait. But there's still a lot of moving parts. Does Conor want to wait? And why break up the fight between Kamaru and Masvidal, but have something in store for Masvidal? What could be bigger? Here's the question. What could be bigger than Masvidal-Kamaru? Now, I understand where you could make the argument of Conor. What I'm asking you is, could you make any other argument? Or just by default, do we have a reasonable bet to make here based on very limited information? But as people that like to speculate, do we have a reasonable hypothesis that Masvidal McGregor is in the works.